when I first met Nikki Sixx. I was a street kid living in Hollywood. There was just this chemistry. I liked him immediately. I said, let's you and me start a band. And he was really happy. Like, he hugged me and was just like, yeah, let's do it, man. And so that was it.
London was fronted by Nigel Benjamin, the former lead singer of the very last incarnation of Motley Crue. Nikki Sixx was the bass player and in many ways the architect of the whole London theme.
We were going to try to perpetuate the classic glitter rock of 74, 75, kind of glitzy, glam, ambisexual, whatever you want to call it. The whole scene in Hollywood at that exact moment was almost permeated with punk rock. Those people wanted no part of it. London would play a sold-out weekend at the Starwood, and then we'd go down there to get paid on Sunday. Nikki had to walk through an entire crowd of wrathful punks, you know, who did not like the way he looked.
The crowd of people, they were laughing at him like, oh my God, take a look at these freaks.
And he got spit on like 100 times.
They were just a joke.
We'd play shows, and Nigel would come backstage and go, that guy sucks, he can't play, I want him out of the band.
Nikki was not a strong musician. Nikki was all over the place.
There was just a lot of turmoil within that group.
Nigel had an extremely huge ego. He goes, it's Nikki or me. And I said, no way, Nikki's not going anywhere. Nigel Benjamin quit the band. The magic was gone.
Nikki said, I want something bigger, I want to shock people. I want to get out there and I want to be known.
One day I'm sitting with Nikki, we're out in my car, and Nikki started crying. And I go, what's the matter? And he goes, this makes me sad to think about it. He was, hold on a second. He started crying because he was quitting the band, and I didn't know that, you know.
Nikki wanted to put together 3 other guys that he had handpicked to be in a star band.
Nikki Sixx was a rock and roll architect, out to build the ultimate heavy metal beast.
Nikki hooked up with Tommy Lee.
He knew Tommy from Sweet 19.
Tommy was very young at the time, I think still in high school.
Nikki definitely got the best drummer around at that time.
Tommy was born in Athens in October 3rd, 1962. Tommy was 2 when my mom brought him back to the United States.
Growing up, he was a great all-American kid.
Tommy's relationship with his parents was very good.
You could tell it was a tight-knit family and everybody supported everybody.
My parents were pretty Leave It to Beaver.
Tommy had a lot of energy. He was very hyperactive. He loved music.
Tommy was banging on the stuff in the kitchen. He was playing on the walls. My father bought him a drum set for Christmas from Sears. And the front was all psychedelic, and there was a light inside the kick drum that blinked on and off, and he just thought that was the coolest thing alive. I remember when Tommy first got into ballet and tap class. Tommy had to come with me to class. Instead of him just sitting and watching the whole time, my mom was like, while you're here, you might as well try it, right? So he kind of got into it. They used to call him the 2x4 because he was like really stiff, you know?
I remember one time coming over to his house and he's in a pair of tights. And I'm like, Tom, why are you wearing the tights?
If I was ever mad at him or something, I'd go right in the middle of the street and I'd just go, hey, Tommy, it's time for ballet!
He was kind of embarrassed about it.
I met Tom at Royal Oak High School.
Tommy was a skinny little guy, long hair, and kind of tall and lanky.
It was tough for him because he wasn't quite cool yet. He didn't really know where he was fitting.
Tommy got hassled a lot just for looking different and being different and having different interests. You know, he didn't want to play football.
He really wanted people to like him, and if they didn't like him, he was kind of hurt and wanted to know why. You know, why don't they like me?
Tom was a quiet guy, but his personality, he would change when he would play the drums. I mean, you could see it.
He was in our high school band. Yeah, he was a band nerd.
Everything was music, music, music.
Tommy would play the drums 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If anything, we had to pry Tommy off the drums.
Tommy always wanted to start a band.
They made up the group US 101.
Basically, it was a cover band. They were playing Styx.
Stuff like Fog Hats.
Journey was real popular.
Once Tommy was getting more comfortable with himself, that's when he got really cute. The girls started really digging him.
This one girl would come over and she would be in the driveway or on the side of our house just screaming, "Tommy, I want to have your baby.
Please come out," and throwing rocks at the windows, and it was pretty crazy. Tommy's mom was very lenient. His dad was a lot more strict.
His dad wasn't real supportive about what was going on. He thought he was more or less wasting his time.
They had conversations about his education and where he was going in life.
It got ugly once in a while.
My dad was always a military guy. He had been in the military for about 40 years. And my dad was saying, well, you know, you can always go in the Army and play music. And my brother wanted nothing to do with it. That ended up being a pretty gnarly fight. My dad was pissed off and he said something about being a man, let's go outside. He took my brother in the backyard and they were fist fighting. Tommy left right then. He just left and, you know, didn't come back till 2, 3 in the morning, something like that.
Tommy always knew where he was going, but I don't think anyone else knew.
US 101 was falling apart.
There was some infighting.
At about this time, Tommy started dressing a little differently. He was stealing my makeup. He was taking my earrings. He was taking my shirts.
He was starting to play in a band called Sweet 19, starting to play some of the Hollywood clubs, starting to get into the stuff that he really wanted to do.
We had heard through the grapevine that Tommy had got together with Nicky, the guy from London.
Him and Tommy clicked immediately.
He got the call to play with Nicky. He left high school, he left the house, then he moved to Hollywood.
There's nothing you can do to stop him at that point.
I remember just flipping out because all of a sudden he was just gone.
Nicky had a vision of this band.
It was his concerted effort to put the ultimate rock band together.
He had found an amazing drummer.
The problem was trying to find a great guitarist.
His real name was Robert Anthony Deal.
He grew up in Garden Grove, California.
He didn't like the initials RAD, R-A-D.
He was always coming up with another name every week to be called instead of being called Bob Deal.
When he hit Mick Mars, you know, it just kind of came out and it stuck.
We had a band called White Horse back in the mid-'70s. Mick was a guitar player that followed our band around, and he was just dying to get in our group.
We were playing Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin. Mick would come around to where we would play, and he would just stand there and look at us.
He was introverted and shy.
Mick had 2 children by his first wife. He had to make money so he could support the kids.
He didn't have a dime to his name. His amp was blown up, his guitar had a broken neck, and the guy had 1 set of clothes.
But it didn't matter. I was immediately blown away by the way he played.
Let's turn out the lights. This guy's just got it.
He added a dimension to the band that we didn't have before.
We knew we were going to be famous. We were in a record deal, and our managers saw disco as the next big thing. We want you guys to put 3 disco songs on your album. Mick and I said, no, we're not doing that.
We were a ballsy rock and roll band, and we weren't going to settle for anything less than that. Things just kind of fell apart after that.
Mick and Kenny continued on for a few years in Vendetta. Pretty soon that band fizzled out, and Mick was back on the streets destitute.
I don't know how Mick survived. He hooked up with another gal. He had another baby.
All of his bills started piling up. He was starting this pattern of failure, and I think he just saw, hey, I'm never going to be able to get out of this if I don't change something.